History is full of strange and mysterious legal battles where people have used unexpected, surprising, or truly bizarre strategies to win. Here are some of the most unusual cases ever. But before we start, if you're new to our channel, make sure to subscribe so you'll always be updated with videos like this. The town that outlawed death. In 1999, a small town in Brazil took one of the most unusual steps in the history of law. The mayor declared it illegal to die within their town. Yes, you read that right. Death itself was banned. The reason? The town's only cemetery was already full and legal processes were preventing its expansion. Because of this deadlock, they came up with a drastic solution. The mayor decided that the only way to get the attention of higher levels of government was to make dying illegal. The idea was funny and absurd. Suddenly, the town made the news as the place where citizens could be arrested if they died. The move worked. International media coverage poured in, the story went viral, and the authorities were forced to fix the problem at the cemetery. Although no one was actually charged for dying, it became a well-known example of a creative solution to a problem and proof that sometimes the most unusual laws capture the world's attention. The monkey selfie trial. In 2011, a macaque monkey in Indonesia seemed to become an influencer even before Instagram became popular by taking a selfie. A wildlife photographer left his camera and a curious monkey pressed the shutter, capturing a surprisingly beautiful and clear self-portrait. But instead of just being a cute incident, it turned into a courtroom drama like something out of a movie. The big question is, who owns the photo? Is it the photographer or the monkey? Lawyers, animal rights activists, and the media all debated. Headlines even spread saying the monkey was demanding royalties and claiming artistic rights. After several years of discussion, the court decided that animals cannot hold copyright. So the rights to the photo remained with the photographer. The monkey didn't get rich, but the story went viral and proved that the internet really loves absurd legal battles. In 1991, there was a courtroom debate in the United Kingdom about one of the strangest questions about food. Is a Jaffa cake a biscuit or a cake? On one side were the tax authorities who wanted to impose VAT on the popular snack. On the other side was McVitie's, the maker of Jaffa cake, who defended their product. Millions of pounds in the honor of the British snack were at stake. The trial turned into something like a comedy show. Experts debated the size, texture, and especially what happens when the product hardens. The simple rule is, cake hardens. When stale, a biscuit softens. McVitie's even presented an oversized Jaffa cake to prove their point. In the end, McVitie's won. The Jaffa cake was officially recognized as a cake, and biscuits all over the UK breathed a sigh of relief. Beyond the humor, the case shows just how absurd bureaucracy can be when a simple snack turns into a legal and delicious battle. The McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit. In 1992, one of the most talked about cases in America started with something that seemed almost funny: a spilled cup of coffee from McDonald's. A 79-year-old woman in New Mexico accidentally had coffee spilled on her lap. But what happened was much worse than anyone expected. The coffee was so hot that it caused third-degree burns, and she had to be hospitalized and undergo a skin graft. At first glance, many thought it was just a frivolous lawsuit. It even became a joke on late-night TV shows. But when the case reached the court, surprising details came out. It turned out that McDonald's coffee wasn't just normally hot. They kept it at around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to cause severe burns in just a few seconds. There had already been hundreds of complaints about this, but they still continued with this process. What they thought was a simple accident actually became an issue of corporate negligence and public safety. In the end, the woman was given damages, and this became one of the most misunderstood cases in history. Over time, this became a joke to many. But the truth is, it forced McDonald's and other fast food chains to change how hot their coffee should be. The psychic who sued NASA. In 1997, NASA was preparing for an ambitious mission, the Deep Impact Probe, a project where they would crash into Comet Tempel 1 to study its interior. While the scientists were very excited, a woman in Russia was furious. Her name was Marina Bay, a self-proclaimed psychic and astrologer. For her, the plan to crash into the comet was not just a simple experiment. She said it was a cosmic crime. According to her, it would disrupt the balance of the universe and could even affect her personal astrological power. So she did what no one expected. She sued NASA and even demanded $300 million in damages. Her argument was that by interfering with the comet, NASA meddled with the cosmic order, which was part of her abilities. At first, it seemed like the case would be dismissed right away, but to everyone's surprise, the court in Moscow still accepted the case for hearing. The story went viral all over the world. It was laughed at in the news and talk shows, a psychic fighting against the biggest space agency in the world. In the end, she didn't win the $300 million, but she achieved a unique kind of victory. The court ordered a small agency to review the possible impact of the mission, so for her, it wasn't simply ignored. She didn't become rich, but she achieved something even stranger. The belief that the scientific world was forced to listen to her cosmic concern. This case remains one of the most unusual examples of how ancient beliefs and modern science collide. For NASA, this was just a routine job, but for Marina Bay, it was proof that the universe and its vibes also have a place in court. The Harrier jet lawsuit. In the 1990s, Pepsi launched a promotional campaign called Pepsi Points. When Pepsi launched the promotion, you bought Pepsi, collected points, and exchanged them for prizes like t-shirts, sunglasses, or a leather jacket. Nothing unusual until a famous commercial came out. At the end of the advertisement, after showing the usual prizes, a scene suddenly appeared where a high school student arrived at school in a Harrier fighter jet, a real military attack aircraft. And along with this, the text appeared: Harrier jet, 7 million Pepsi points. Many people just laughed, but there was one man who didn't. John Leonard believed it was a real offer. He calculated the points and realized he didn't need to buy millions of Pepsis. He could buy the points directly for about $700,000. This was much cheaper compared to the real value of a Harrier jet, which was around $23 million. So he did the unexpected. He gathered investors, sent the order form to Pepsi, and asked for the jet. Naturally, Pepsi refused, but Leonard didn't back down. He sued the company for breach of contract, claiming that the commercial was a legal offer that he accepted. Suddenly, a soda company ended up in court having to explain why they wouldn't give a fighter jet to an ordinary person. The trial was like a comedy. They debated whether the commercial was serious or clearly just a joke. Pepsi's defense? This was obviously a joke, especially since the Harrier jet wasn't in their official prize catalog. The court sided with Pepsi. The judge said that no reasonable person would believe the commercial was a real offer. Leonard lost, but the case became legendary. It's proof that sometimes there are people who take advertisements seriously. A few years later, it even became a Netflix documentary about the man who almost fought Pepsi for a jet. The Great Jets, the Great Pringles Tax War. In late 2000, a court in London became the stage for one of the strangest battles in the history of snack food. The question was, is Pringles a potato chip or not? Procter & Gamble, the company that makes Pringles, wanted to prove that their product was not a real potato crisp, so it shouldn't be subject to value-added tax. In the UK, potato chips are taxed, but basic foods are not. So if they could prove that it's not a real potato product, they could save millions in taxes. Their lawyer's defense was extremely detailed and almost laughable. Pringles are only 42% potato mixed with wheat starch, corn flour, and other ingredients. These are not natural potato slices. Their shape is uniform, unlike real chips. They're in a can, not in a sack or bag like normal chips. In other words, they tried to show that Pringles is not really a potato chip. The case became like an experiment in law and food, where a simple snack turned into an issue of taxes and technical definitions. According to Procter & Gamble, these differences prove that Pringles is not like traditional potato crisps. In 2008, the company won the first round of the case. The judge agreed that by their strict definition, Pringles is not potato crisps, but a different kind of product. But this victory was only temporary. The case went up on appeal, and in 2009, a higher court overturned it. They declared that despite its odd composition, unusual shape, and unconventional packaging, Pringles can still be considered crisps. The judge explained that the average person would undoubtedly call Pringles a chip. Pringles. That sometimes even a simple snack can become the center of one of the most unusual legal battles. The Seattle Bikini Barista Controversy. Between 2007 and 2017, Seattle became known for a unique cultural debate, the rise of so-called bikini baristas. At coffee stands in the city, women served coffee while wearing bikinis, lingerie, or other revealing clothing. Because of this, the simple act of buying coffee became an attraction, always accompanied by a controversy. The local government tried to stop this by implementing dress code laws. The aim was to ban this kind of clothing, supposedly for public decency, but the baristas fought back. They insisted that their clothing is a form of free expression and that the law should not control how they do their work. The issue reached national headlines. The topic of coffee cleavage and constitutional rights became a subject of discussion on television and in newspapers. In the end, the court sided with the baristas and struck down the laws as unconstitutional. For some, this was a victory for individual rights. For others, this was just a peculiar example of a legal discussion about coffee and clothing. The Seattle Bikini Barista Controversy showed that even a simple cup of coffee can spark intense debate in court. It's proof that sometimes the fight for freedom comes with espresso and whipped cream. When a bikini top challenged the law. In 1983 in Clearwater, Florida, one of the most unusual scenes in court took place. An exotic dancer was arrested for violating a city rule that required female performers to wear a bikini top in order to be considered decent. For her, this was unfair. Instead of just relying on her lawyer's argument, she took a bold step. She appeared in court wearing a bikini, the very outfit considered legal. And in front of the judge, she showed how little coverage it provided compared to what she wore on stage. The entire room fell silent. Some were shocked, some were nervous, and it immediately made headlines. Her point was simple. If the effect of the two outfits was almost the same, why was one legal and the other not? Her demonstration worked. The judge agreed with her argument. The cases were immediately dismissed. A well-known example of creative courtroom defense. This is not just a funny or strange story. It also reflects the larger cultural changes in America from the late 1970s through the 1980s. Across the country, many local governments and conservative groups were pushing to enforce traditional values through laws about decency, nightlife, and entertainment. At the same time, more and more people were demanding greater freedom of expression, especially in the growing nightlife industry. The clash between old morality and the new call for personal freedom kept resurfacing in clubs, bars, and courts. Florida often found itself caught in the middle of these battles. On one hand, the state relies on tourism. The beaches, bars, and clubs are a big part of the economy. On the other hand, many communities are conservative and want stricter regulations on public entertainment. Because of this, Florida has often become a battleground for legal disputes about dress codes and performances. The case in Clearwater became special because it showed how inconsistent these laws are. If a bikini is considered decent, it's hard to explain why almost the same outfit is illegal. What became memorable in the case was how it showed that decency is based on a person's perspective. The dancer used the very court as a stage, and in her demonstration, she showed that the law was unreasonable. The case also showed that even people who are often judged or looked down upon, like dancers and strip clubs, can fight the system and win. Although it did not bring about widespread changes in the law, it remains a reminder of how personal freedom is fought for in America in unexpected ways. One of the most unusual cases in U.S. history is about Robert Lee Brock, a prisoner who decided to take the concept of self-accountability to the extreme by suing himself. He demanded $5 million, claiming that his own crimes violated his religious beliefs and civil rights, and caused him severe emotional distress. Since he had no money, he requested that the state of Virginia pay the $5 million on his behalf. When the case reached court, the judge had to deal with an almost impossible situation. A person who sued himself for money he couldn't even pay. With a clever and humorous response, the judge dismissed the case and said that Brock didn't even explain how he would collect the filing fee from himself. The story quickly went viral and became known as proof that the strangest cases are often the funniest. And that's all for today. If you enjoy these strange and unbelievable legal cases, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that will make you think. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next episodes of Noel Polo TV.